Welcome back to Language Lab, Alex. Did you know that in many cultures, people can tell you a whole family history in just one sentence? Today, we're diving into how to talk about your family like a native speaker. And trust me, it's more than just saying my mum and my dad.
That's right, Sarah. We'll explore the subtle grammar tricks, cultural etiquette, and the idiomatic expressions that make family talk feel natural. By the end of this episode, listeners will be able to describe their relatives with confidence and cultural flair.
But here's what's really interesting. Native speakers often use relational nouns and honorifics that convey respect and closeness at the same time. Think about how Japanese says oba-san versus oba-chan, or how Spanish uses tío and tía in playful ways.
Exactly. We'll break the topic into three subsegments. First, the grammatical foundations. Second, cultural do's and don'ts. And third, real-world examples you can practice tonight. What most people don't realize is that even small tweaks can completely change the tone of a family story.
And that's just the beginning, Alex. Later, we'll share a surprising statistic about how learners who master family vocabulary improve overall fluency by 20%. Stay tuned, because the real game changer is coming up in the next segment.
All right, let's jump in. Grab a cup of coffee and let's start with the building blocks that make native-like family talk possible.
First up, the grammatical foundations. In English, we often use possessive adjectives, my, your, his. But many languages embed the relationship directly into the noun. For example, in Mandarin you say, wo baba, my dad, without a separate possessive word, and the tone tells you a lot about respect.
That's a great point, Sarah. In Spanish, you have gendered nouns and also diminutives like abuelita versus abuela to signal affection. The suffix ito or ita can turn a formal reference into something cozy, and it's used across Latin America in everyday conversation.
What's particularly interesting is how these diminutives affect perception. Saying mi hermana feels neutral, but mi hermanita instantly conveys endearment. Listeners pick up on that emotional cue without even realizing why they feel warmer toward the speaker.
And here's where it gets fascinating. Some languages use honorific prefixes. In Korean, abionim is a respectful way to say father, whereas appa is informal. Switching between them can signal the level of formality you want to convey in a conversation.
Exactly. And that leads us to the cultural do's and don'ts. In many cultures, it's polite to mention older relatives first when you introduce your family. For instance, saying, my mother, my father, then my sister follows a hierarchy that shows respect.
Right, Sarah. But what most people don't realize is that in some cultures, mentioning certain relatives can be taboo. In parts of the Middle East, talking about aunts on the paternal side may be considered too intimate for casual conversation. Knowing these nuances prevents accidental offense.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Let's talk about idiomatic expressions that native speakers love. In English, you might hear, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree to describe family resemblance. In French, they say, les chiens ne font pas de chats, literally, dogs don't make cats, to express the same idea.
Good example, Sarah. In Japanese, there's the phrase, "Jie hashue yorimo o nongi, chiwa mizu yorimo koi," meaning blood is thicker than water. It's often used when emphasizing loyalty to family, and it carries a cultural weight that goes beyond the literal translation.
Speaking of which, let's dive into a real-world scenario. Imagine you're at a dinner party and the host asks, tell us about your family. How would you respond in a way that feels native? I'd start with a brief hierarchy. My mother, a teacher, my father, an engineer, and my younger brother who's in high school.
That's a solid structure, Sarah. Notice the use of occupational titles. It adds depth and mirrors how many natives naturally include what they do. In German, you might say, meine Mutter ist Lehrerin, mein Vater Ingenieur, und mein Bruder geht noch zur Schule, which follows the same pattern.
But here's what's truly remarkable. Native speakers often weave in anecdotes. For example, my grandmother used to bake the best apple pie, and every holiday we still use her secret recipe. That little story creates a vivid picture and invites follow-up questions.
Exactly. And it also demonstrates the cultural value placed on storytelling. In many Asian cultures, sharing a brief family legend is a sign of respect and connection. It's not just about facts, it's about the emotional thread that ties the family together.
What do you think, Alex? Should we also discuss how to handle sensitive topics like divorce or estranged relatives when speaking like a native?
Definitely, Sarah. In many cultures, it's considered impolite to bring up family conflict unless the listener explicitly asks. A safe approach is to use neutral language. My family has gone through changes, instead of detailed explanations.
And that's a perfect segue into our next subtopic, navigating delicate family topics with cultural sensitivity. For instance, in Italian families, talking about personal struggles is common, but you'd still frame it with a positive spin. We're working through it together.
In contrast, in Scandinavian countries, privacy is highly valued, so you'd likely keep the conversation brief and factual. Saying, my parents are retired and enjoy gardening is sufficient. Oversharing can be seen as intrusive.
Here's where it gets fascinating. Even the choice of pronouns can signal intimacy. In Russian, you switch from "v", formal you, to "t", informal you when talking about close family members, but you keep "v" when speaking to strangers about your family.
Exactly, Sarah. That shift in pronoun usage is a subtle cue that native speakers pick up on instantly. It's a linguistic mirror of social distance, and mastering it shows a deep cultural understanding.
Now, let's talk about body language. When you mention your family, natives often use open gestures, palms up, slight forward lean, to convey warmth. In contrast, crossing arms can unintentionally signal defensiveness.
Good observation. In many Latin cultures, a light touch on the arm while speaking about a loved one reinforces connection. It's a nonverbal cue that says, I'm sharing something personal and trust you with it.
What's particularly interesting is how these gestures differ across generations. Younger speakers might use emojis in text, like a heart or family emoji, to replace physical gestures when talking about relatives online.
And that brings us to digital etiquette. In many East Asian messaging apps, you'll see the use of honorifics even in casual chats. Adding "san" after a family member's name shows respect. Forgetting that can come across as overly familiar.
Exactly. So, to recap, we've covered grammar, cultural hierarchy, idioms, storytelling, sensitive topics, pronouns, and body language. That's a lot of ground, but there's still one more piece. Practice drills you can try tonight.
I'll propose a quick exercise. Pick 3 family members and describe them using the structures we discussed. Start with hierarchy, add an occupational title, sprinkle in a diminutive or honorific, and finish with a short anecdote. Record yourself and listen for natural flow.
And for a fun twist, try swapping languages. Say the same description in your target language, then translate back to English. You'll spot gaps in nuance and improve both fluency and cultural awareness.
One more tip. Ask a native friend to give feedback on your family description. Their instinctive reaction will tell you if you've hit the right tone or if something feels off.
Before we wrap up, let's leave listeners with a challenge. Over the next week, share a family story on social media using at least 2 idiomatic expressions we covered. Tag us and we'll feature the best ones in our next episode.
That's a fantastic call to action, Sarah. And remember, the real game changer is consistent practice, turning those linguistic tools into muscle memory.
Wow, Alex, we covered a lot, from grammar tricks to cultural etiquette. So listeners now have a toolbox for talking about family like a native.
Absolutely, Sarah. The key takeaways are respect hierarchy, use appropriate honorifics, sprinkle in idioms, and always be mindful of tone and body language. Those steps will make any family story feel authentic.
And don't forget our practice challenge. Share your story, use those idioms, and tag us. We can't wait to hear how you bring your family to life in a new language.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and follow us on social media for more language hacks. Your feedback helps us tailor future content to your learning needs.
Next week, we'll explore food talk, ordering like a local, where we'll decode menu lingo and ordering etiquette around the world. You won't want to miss it.
Thanks for joining us on Language Lab. Until next time, keep practicing, stay curious, and speak like a native.